We're about to begin our the first proper lecture, the theme talk for the conference, inshallah. Alhamdulillah wahdahu wa salatu wa salam ala man la nabi ba'dahu nabiyuna Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa anna ma'ahum ila yawmiddin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu wa ba'd. I'd like to welcome Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick, who is going to be one of our principal lecturers at this event. This is now going to be the theme talk, so the title of the lecture is exactly the same as the title of the conference, which is being like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is society's best hope, mercy to mankind, hope for humanity. A few words of introduction about Sheikh Abdullah before we proceed. It's only proper that we understand very clearly the background of the people who are presenting their lectures, inshallah. Sheikh Abdullah has a BA in Islamic from the Islamic University of Medina, and an MA and a PhD from the University of Toronto in Islamic and African affairs, or histories rather. He has served as an imam and a da'i for quite a long while in various parts of the world, but chiefly in America, starting with the LA, Los Angeles in the USA, and then in Kingston, Jamaica, and then of course Toronto, Canada. He's traveled to about 37 countries worldwide, alhamdulillah, entering into discussion and participating in events, and giving talks, dialogues, debates, and many things like that. So he has a wide field of experience and a lot of information to uncover in front of us, inshallah. Since 1984, and rather in 1984, he did special lectures in Mecca at the Masjid al-Haram and on behalf of Islamic Consciousness Group, something during the Hajj that they put together for particularly Hajis, English-speaking Muslims. And presently he's now head of Dawah department in Cape Town, South Africa, and part of the Muslim Judicial Council as well, and a senior lecturer at Darul Arqam Institute in Cape Town. Sheikh Abdullah prefers to talk for about 45-50 minutes perhaps. After that we'll have about 20-25 minutes worth of Q&A. Could I briefly mention one or two other housekeeping rules, because some people are asked or requested permission to put their recording devices on the table or on the platform. Unfortunately, we don't allow that, personal recording on the platform. But if you want to record any lectures by yourselves from where you are or near the loudspeakers, anywhere else apart from the platform on table, you are more than welcome. You're welcome to make copies and give to other people as well. But it helps us not to have clutter and not to have intrusion in the pictures and so forth. So I have to apologize to all the brothers who requested me that we allow them to record lectures on the platform. But without further ado, Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wal-aqibatu lil-muttaqeen. Wa la udwana illa ala al-zalimin. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi. ومن دعا بدعوته واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. All praises are due to Allah, Lord of the worlds. And surely the best reward in the end is for those who have taqwa. And surely there is no animosity except for the oppressor. And I bear witness that Allah is one and has no partners, that Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, is his servant and his last messenger. May Allah always and constantly send peace and blessings to Muhammad, and to his family, his companions, and all those who call to his way and establish his sunnah to the day of judgment. As to what follows, I begin with the greeting words of the righteous. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And I bring you special salams, greetings and feelings of solidarity from your brothers and sisters in the southern region of Africa. I bring you salams from a land of great despair and great hope. There is great despair stalking the land in South Africa today. It is the front lines of many of the world's crises. As you may be well aware, it is considered to be the epicenter of HIV/AIDS. In some parts of Southern Africa, it is said that 1 out of every 4 people are HIV positive. They predict, wal-iyadhu billah, that millions of people will die within the next 10 to 20 years, and they look upon it as a plague or an epidemic, even worse than the Black Plague, bubonic plague, or some of the other major plagues that have hit humanity. There is a great debate going on in South Africa as to what really is AIDS. Allah knows best. It is said that it comes from a virus, but there is also proof to show that the immune system breaks down from malnutrition, from tuberculosis, from hepatitis. There's a number of ways that the immune system can break down. Whatever it is, whether it's a man-made biological weapon, whether it's divine punishment for the sins of humanity, whatever it is striking us. And we are suffering at this point in a terrible way. Also, the abuse of drugs, unemployment, petty crime. We are at the epicenter of a lot of the world's ills. But at the same time, there is great hope. Because in this region, we are watching a transformation going on without a bloody rebellion. We are watching the poor masses of the people rising up and taking control of the means of production of a major world power. It is said there is hope for an African renaissance, for a rebirth of life within the African continent. And it is my prayer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that those poor, the oppressed, who are rising up in the southern region, that they can realize this renaissance through Islam. Because surely the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate solution to all of our problems. And so it is my prayer at the outset that the Sutu, the Swana, Xhosa, Zulu, the Khoisan people, the southern part of Africa, it is my prayer that Allah would accept them and enter them into Islam. I also pray that indigenous people in other parts of the world who have borne the brunt of colonialism, apartheid and slavery for centuries, the Aboriginal people in Australia, the Aboriginal people in America, North America, Caribbean, South America, the captured political prisoners of war, African American slaves, and their descendants. It is my prayer that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would enter them into Islam in crowds, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would help us all together, along with the oppressed, to reflect upon the divine blessing He has given us with His words. Because this Quran that was revealed through Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was not only the roadmap in his time, but it is our light in the time of darkness. And Muslims now are in need of this light. We are in need of this surety in our hearts. When we are being demonized, and we are being attacked, we are being wrongfully accused of terror and harm in this world, we seek refuge with the oppressed people of the world in the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has told us, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه إن الله بالغ أمري قد جعل الله لكل شيء قدرا. Allah has informed us, whoever fears Allah and keeps his duty to Him, He will make a way out for him from every difficulty. And He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will provide for him from sources he could never imagine. And whoever puts his trust in Allah then Allah is sufficient for him. Surely Allah will accomplish His purpose, and indeed Allah has set a measure for all things. And so we see in this divine light given to us that the makhraj of all of our problems is through taqwa, through the khawf, raja, the hope and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this wiqaya, the shield surrounding the believer, which influences us in everything that we do. And we also learn that Allah would provide for us from where we know not, if we have tawakkul, if we ultimately depend upon Him, and when the time gets rough, that we say to ourselves, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. No matter what happens, that we say to ourselves and we believe, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the ultimate accounter, and He is the one who protects. And so, Muslims are at a great crossroads. And I can safely say that humanity at this point in time is at a great crossroads. On the one direction is imminent destruction, chaos, mass confusion that can happen in a way that has never been seen by humanity before. On the other road, the other path, is the possibility, insha'Allah, of a new era of justice, equality, and peace. But it is crucial for us to be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to humbly speak to each other from our hearts, not just intellectually from our minds, but that we speak from the inner depths to the Muslims and also to the non-believers. In a series of recent conferences held in Southern Africa and in other parts of the world, scientists have found that we are, as a human race, in a serious crisis. And when they came together in one of the groups, the World Watch Institute, when they came together to try to analyze the movement of life, the state of the world, politically, economically, socially, they found out that the greatest threat to the stability of humanity today is not terror. It is not a small group of people out to destroy the world, but that the greatest threat to the stability of every nation today is the environment. And the second greatest threat is the inequality between the rich and the poor. These two elements themselves have the capability of destabilizing every aspect of life. What we are feeling and realizing now in this summer, and in the UK, you tasted it. You tasted the brunt of this. The temperature rose up. I was here just 10 days ago and the temperature rose up, and they said it was the hottest day ever recorded in London. I'll take it a step further. The scientists have now reached the conclusion that the year 2003 is the hottest year on written record. And the temperatures in the northern hemisphere are higher than any temperature they believe in the past 1,000 years. We are in a period of global warming, the greenhouse effect, the misuse of technology, the gases, carbon dioxide, and other gases rising up, the destruction of the ozone layer. And because of this, the polar ice caps are melting. The water is rising. And recently, the president of the Maldives, which is an island state, set of islands off the coast of India, came to South Africa, and he pleaded with the nations of the world that they should change their budgets, that they should stop destroying the environment and use the blessings that they have received in order to enhance life, to benefit not only humanity, but the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the way it is set up now, the polar ice caps are melting, and if it continues within 20 years, wal-iyadu billah, nations like the Maldives would be underwater, totally underwater. And so he pleaded to the nations of the world. It is also found that 1/3 of the fish in the sea have been depleted. 1/2 of the world's rivers are polluted. Fresh water is running out all over the world. We are destroying the ancient rainforests. And so the very earth itself, the earth is reacting to us as a human race. The earth is crying out for mercy. Somebody, some nation, something that would change the course of the relationship of people with the environment. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned us of this. And we have this amongst us. In Surah Al-Rum, verse 41, Allah has told us, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. Corruption has appeared on the land and the sea because of what man's hands have done. We will make them taste something of what they have earned in order that they would return to the path. And so when people misuse technology, misuse the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, corruption appears on the land and the sea. And it is interesting to go back in time to our great Salaf, to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and to see how they felt in terms of this ayah. It's so interesting to see their knowledge, their wisdom, even shining today in the world. In terms of al-fasad fil barri wal bahr. Qatada thought that it is a shirk, it is polytheism. That polytheism would be stalking the land. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anh said it would be the killing of the children of Adam, killing each other. Murder would be widespread. He also said that this fasad fil barri wal bahr, it would manifest itself in the form of droughts and qillat al-nabat, that actually the vegetation would decrease, wa dhihab al-barakah, that blessings would be gone from the land. And many of the older generation can remember, you go back 20 or 30, 40 years, even time itself seemed different. Even wealth that we have, it seemed like it would last longer. It's like barakah is being raised out of the earth itself. In terms of this same concept of the fasad al-barri wal-bahr, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, he said, nuqsan al-barakah bi a'mal al-ibad kay yatubu. That it is a decrease in the barakah, the blessing would decrease because of the sins of people, in order that they would return to the path. In terms of the ocean, it is reported in the tafsir of al-Qurtabi, rahimahullah, that al-fasad fil bahr, it is inqita' sayd al-bahr, that the fish in the sea would be depleted, that they would decrease because of the sins of humanity. And so we see it coming to pass in front of our eyes. The environment is turned against us. But Muslims have the answer. We are the society that was blessed with a holistic approach to science, approaching science with tawheed, remembering the creator of the heavens and the earth, looking upon science and knowledge and technology as an amana, the concept of khalifa, of being the vicegerent, the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the technology that we have, the blessings that we have, the power that we have, is not to build our reputations. It is a trust. It is a trust that we would take care of the environment, and that we would be responsible for things around us. We are also finding ourselves as a humanity in an economic crisis. The system of interest and usury, as our previous speaker had said, we are suffering in this system. And it has now come to the surface that in terms of the wealth on this planet, that 20% of humanity consumes 90% of the resources. that 2/3 of humanity live on less than $2 per day. 2/3 of humanity. So where is the trust? Where is the amana? Why is it unequal like this? Is it a God-given right of certain people because of their color or because of their language or because of their weapons that they deserve more food? They deserve better technology? Surely it isn't. And this system is imploding on itself. A destruction is about to come, even in the Western countries, because of the system falling in and caving in. One of the presidents of the United States, to quote even from the United States itself, I quote you from Abraham Lincoln, who is famous as the president who fought against slavery. And he said, "I see in the near future a crisis approaching that unnerves me and causes me to tremble for the safety of my country. Corporations have been enthroned. An era of corruption will follow, and the money power of the country will endeavor to prolong its reign by working upon the prejudices of the people, until the wealth is aggregated in a few hands and the republic is destroyed." He saw it himself. This is in the 1860s. The rise of the multinational corporations, an era of corruption, an international elite controlling the wealth, and then any inkling of freedom, even in their own secular concepts, would be totally lost. And so people are beginning to cry out for mercy. And those who have lived within this system of interest and usury know what I'm talking about. Bonds, mortgages. Once you have that bank in back of you, it is like a slave master breathing down your throat. And you're paying back a debt over and over and over again, and you can't pay your debt, there's no mercy upon you. And so people are crying out for mercy. The Muslims have the answer. We have a workable, interest-free, usury-free system. It is a tried and tested system that if it is updated for the amount of people that we are dealing with today, can solve the economic crisis of this planet. We find ourselves also, as humanity, in a spiritual crisis. Confusion, the confusion of polytheism. As you heard from the previous Sheikh, Mother Teresa herself, who was considered to be one of the so-called holiest people in Christendom. No spirituality, man worship, frustration of atheism. Where are we going? And now there's a rise in magic. And those who have traveled in the world realize there is a rise of the Sahara. As in the time of Pharaoh, and in many points in history, the Sahara are on the rise. And you see many people going now to fortune tellers. There are mediums now who supposedly talk to your dead ancestors, and they tell you what's going on in your family. And so the average people are now crying out and going to these mediums and these fortune tellers, and even amongst Muslims, if we start to talk about the jinn or fortune tellers, or everybody's eyes will start to get big. And so we are seeing the rise of magic. The Christian church is in shame. And the recent induction of leading officials into the Anglican church, homosexuals, into the church has put the church in a crisis. Their sources are right in front of them, but yet they are completely contradicting their sources. And Muslims have the answer. We have the message, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You Allah, only you we worship. Only from you do we seek help. We have a clear methodology so that human beings, male and female, can access their Lord without an intercessor, but go directly to the Creator of the heavens and the earth. We are carrying this message, and it is our duty to get it over to the rest of humanity. Humanity is also in a social crisis. As strange as it may seem, with all of the so-called United Nations charters and human rights acts, racism is on the rise. And there is more tension between people of color than at any point in time. And in many parts of the world, when I travel, you find xenophobia. That the people of the country don't accept you. You're a foreigner. You don't look like them. You don't talk like them. You don't have the same culture. And so racism is raging on the continent. People are having identity crisis. Even we are finding people that are confused about whether they're male or female. Some is male during the day, and at night he turns into a female. Families are on the decline. They did a recent survey in Canada, and they found out divorce is on the rise, and that people getting married in the name of God, male and female in a church, synagogue or mosque, it has now gone down, and the common law relationships are now on the rise. People don't even want to get married anymore. They just shack up with each other for a couple years, and then they leave. So what happens after that? The younger generation rises up in total confusion, with nobody to give them nurturing, nobody to give them an understanding of their identity, of their genealogy, of their history, and so confusion. And the confusion comes out in the popular culture. And you hear it in their music, you see it in their clothing, you see it in their actions. And so the social situation of people is in crisis. Canada, I went there this summer, it is reeling, they are in shock, because the same-sex marriages has now been made totally permissible. And so the very infrastructure of the family itself is under attack. Islam has the answer. And no matter what had happened in our Muslim history, even though our political structure of the Khilafat had fallen down at some points in history, but the institution of the family, the extended family, remained for the most part in the Muslim world. And we still have in many parts of the Muslim world solid families. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. And we still have that to give to the world. But people are going also into political crisis. Communism has fallen. Capitalism is a fool's paradise. It is falling apart in front of the eyes of the people. And the leaders in our nation, everywhere in the world, you read the papers around the world and you see that people are accusing their leaders of deceit and mistrust and lying to them. Not just here in the UK. It is all over the world. The leaders have become the worst of the people. The Prophet ﷺ in a hadith reported by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh has told us, سَيَأْتِي عَلَى النَّاسِ سَنَوَاتٍ خَدَّاعَاتٍ يُصَدِّقُ فِيهَا الْكَاذِبُ وَيُكَذِّبُ فِيهَا الصَّادِقُ وَيُؤْتَمَنُ فِيهَا الْخَائِنُ وَيُخَوِّنُ فِيهَا الْأَمِينُ وَيَنْتِقُ فِيهَا الرُّوَيْبِضَةُ قِيلَ وَمَا الرُّوَيْبِضَةُ قَالَ الرَّجُلُ التَّافِي يَتَكَلَّمُ فِي أَمْرِ الْعَامَّةِ. The Prophet ﷺ has told us in authentic hadith found in Ahmed and Ibn Majah, there will come upon the people years of deceit, in which the liar will be believed and the truthful will be disbelieved. The treacherous will be trusted and the trustworthy will be held as treacherous. And the despicable will speak out. It was said, who is the despicable ones? He said, the lowly, ignoble person who speaks out in public affairs. Sadaqa Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. We find it happening in front of our eyes that the leaders for the most part are the most dangerous, feared people. The worst of society is being brought forward to represent. And Muslims themselves, we are suffering too. And don't think that we are out of this. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, يَكُونُ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَرَاء هُمْ شَرٌّ مِنَ الْمَجُوسِ. that the Prophet ﷺ said there would be amirs, there would be leaders on you who would be even worse than the Majus. And so, no respect for international law. And we are seeing now in the 21st century the rise of a modern Roman Empire. No respect for divine law or for any international conventions. The corruption, the power of the leader, the head of state, we haven't seen anything like this since the Caesars or since the Pharaoh in ancient Egypt. Islam has the solution. Khilafah ala minhaj al-nubuwah. We have the solution of the Khilafat on the prophetic model. And it is crucial for us to realize the amana, the trust that we have not only to Muslims, but to the whole of humanity. But what is really happening outside of us? What is happening in the society around us? What is occupying the minds of the people? This is an economic crisis we're in. Our environment is destroying us. Our families are falling apart. But what is happening? The masses of the people are being helplessly preoccupied. Consumerism, fighting for their Coca-Cola and their Kentucky Fried Chicken and their McDonald's. Everywhere, all over the world. I even went to Mecca, well, iyadu billah, and came out of the Kaaba in this Ben Dawood place. And then you see Mecca Lotto, a lottery system, and you can get your Kentucky Fried Chickens and your Baskin Robbins, and everything is there now. And so it's all around the world, any part of the world, you see these corrupt golden arches. Consumerism pumped into the minds of the people throughout the planet simultaneously. Mass indoctrination, powerful stimulants coming to the television, the movies, the music, pumping people's minds towards sex, violence, and racism. And we also see the rise of drug addiction. There are more people coming into drug addiction today than ever before. It is of epidemic proportions all over the world, and new designer drugs are being developed every day. Other members of the masses of the people are constantly involved in sporting events. And we go from one sporting event to another sporting event. And sports is sunnah, alhamdulillah. It is part of our way. But the confusion that is going on now, what is being attached to the sports? When this last World Cup, the Soccer World Cup came, everything stood still. Time stood still, man. And Muslim youth themselves, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, and all these names, and they don't even know the Sahaba's name, but you know Ronaldo. Even some of the Muslims start shaving their heads in the strange way that he put. And so the soccer cup is going on. It's like the battle of the nations. And so one nation is fighting another nation. France is fighting against Japan. It's like a battle. What is the battle over? Grown men kicking a little ball into a net. They're kicking a little ball, and who's going to kick it inside the net 3 times, and you kick it inside the net 1 time. And so my nation has won, and everybody cheers, and some foolish Muslims themselves stand up there, and national anthem goes off, and they cry because my flag, my national anthem, and they're crying. And there's nothing wrong with sports. It's a beautiful thing. But what I'm trying to say is that we become drunken with sports. If I get so angry because my team is losing that I beat and destroy and kill another person, I hate another person because his teammate or his shirt kicked the ball into the net, then what is really happening? Think about this. It is a form of indoctrination. It is a form of mind control. But above all of this now is the fear of terror. That terror will strike. And all of us are now subject to the terror. Under the cups, around, up in the ceilings, the new terror is on the rise. And recently there was a blackout, you know, in the northeast corner of America. And I wondered to myself, and everybody wondered, we said, oh no, They're going to blame us for this thing again. Watch them. The first half an hour of this thing, every person probably had on his mind a Muslim. Is it a Muslim who did this thing? This is how far this brainwashing is going. It's not Muslims who turned out your lights. It is capitalism. It is a confused form of privatization and the misuse of technology and the greed of certain people not updating, their infrastructure with the wealth that they have been blessed with. They don't update their infrastructure and then it implodes upon them. But the terror, everybody has to be afraid of this terror. The Prophet ﷺ said in authentic hadith, يَكُونُ فِي آخِرِ الزَّمَانِ دَجَّالُونَ كَذَّابُونَ يَأْتُونَكُم مِّنَ الْأَحَادِيثِ بِمَا لَمْ تَسْمَعُوا أَنْتُمْ وَلَا آبَاؤُكُمْ فَإِيَّاكُمْ وَإِيَّاهُمْ لَا يُضِلُّونَكُمْ وَلَا يُفْتِنُونَكُمْ. In this authentic tradition, reported by Al-Suyuti, this is Al-Jami al-Saghir, the Prophet ﷺ has said, there would be, near the end of time, Dajjalun Kadhabun. Great liars, to the point of being like false antichrists. They will come to you with a type of speech that neither you nor your parents have ever heard of before. Beware of them. Beware that they take you astray. Beware that they put you into a fitna. Saddaqa Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. He did not speak from himself. He spoke from above 7 heavens. We see it come to rise today with digital technology. They make what is true seem to be false. And falsehood seem like it is true. They lose us in cyberspace somewhere, lost in space. They can now take your picture and make you talk with your words and put false words into your mouth that sounds like you. And beam it around the world simultaneously, and people say, well, that's him. I heard him speak. That's his voice. Sadaqa Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. They will come to you with a type of speech that neither you nor your parents have ever heard of before. And so we see it coming to pass in front of our eyes. Great liars turning the guns on the Muslims and putting us in the barrel of decision. What has been our response? In the response of this onslaught, this false accusation, especially after September 11th, Muslims have reacted in a number of ways. From these ways, we could look at the following. Some Muslims tried to assimilate, and so they lost their Islamic identity. They tried to assimilate into the society itself, but that doesn't work anymore, man. You can't assimilate, because they're going to find you anyway, man. Even if your grandfather was a Muslim, they're still going to know that you came from a Muslim family. So change your name from Ali to Al. Change it from Muhammad to Mo, or Bilqis to Billy. But you can't hide. So assimilation is not going to work. And how can you assimilate into a society that is so confused now, that is in its death throes, in its final cultural stages, destroying families, high on drugs, confused about their sexuality? How can we assimilate into a society such as this and get ourselves lost? So that doesn't work. You become like the fuqara of Bani Israel. You have no deen and you have no dunya, man. You're totally lost. Some people tried not to assimilate, they tried to isolate themselves and bury their heads under the sand and say, if we just hide in our house, in our masjid, in our corner, in our ideology, it will save us. That's not going to work either, man. Because you can bury your head under the sand, but they know who you are anyway. So isolation is not going to work, especially when the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ is in such a need that we are in need of people to go amongst the Ummah and to teach the message of Islam. Isolation is not going to work for us. You become isolated and targeted and destroyed. 3, a desperate confrontation. This desperate confrontation in many parts of the Muslim world, especially those areas that are not involved in major conflicts, it is giving the wrong message. And in many cases, people are being killed who are actually innocent. And it is not the way of the Prophet ﷺ of desperate confrontation. And so this desperate physical confrontation is not working. What is the solution? And Allah knows best. Islamic revival. We need to revive Islam within ourselves, within our families, within the society. We need to show this world what the true message of Islam is, and this revival comes about through the example of the Prophet ﷺ. That is the best example, to look and see how Rasulullah ﷺ dealt in the time of crisis, how he dealt when the confusion was over him, when punishment came to him and his believers. Allah told us, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. In Surah Al-Ahzab verse 21, Allah has told us, indeed in the Messenger of Allah, you have a good example to follow. For he who hopes in the meeting with Allah and the last day and remembers Allah often. And so Islamic revival. Islamic revival in the time of crisis. Islamic revival would bring out the mercy. Because it is the Prophet ﷺ, rahmatan lil alameen, he is the mercy for all worlds. He is the mercy for the environment, the mercy for the economy, for the spirituality, for social life, for political life. But to walk in his footsteps is a serious issue for Muslims now. We can no longer pay lip service to the Prophet ﷺ and sing a song or chant or on a special occasion come together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to us in His glorious book in the 2nd chapter in verse 208, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu dkhulu fis silmi kaffa wa la tattabi'u khutuwat ash-shaytan innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. O you who believe, enter into Islam completely and do not follow the footsteps of the shaitan. For he is to you an open enemy. He is an open enemy. So enter into Islam completely. Not just in terms of Islamic rituals. Completely. That means in our spiritual life, our economic life, our social life, political life. In Islam, it is all tied together. It is not our way to separate one from another. Enter into Islam completely. Islamic revival begins from within the individual. The niyyah, the intention. And we need to, as Muslims, constantly ask ourselves, why are we doing what we are doing? Why do we come to the conference? Do we come to the conference for Allah and His Messenger? Or do you come here to get married? Or do you come here to make some money? You have to ask yourself. And the main reason why we are here, why we are practicing our Islam, should be for Allah and His Messenger, to gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to enter into His Jannah, insha'Allah. This problem that we are facing in the Muslim world, and in this planet, would not have started if we did not become weak. If we did not leave our faith, and have tribalism and racism amongst us, and leave the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. It would not have come amongst us if we did not let usury and interest enter into the Muslim world, and corruption entering into the Muslim world. And we will not come out of this thing until we change ourselves. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Ra'd verse 11, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change that which is in themselves. No change. This problem would not have happened if we did not start making changes within ourselves. The wrong decisions. So we need to begin to make the right decisions in an organized way. So the revival starts from within the individual. Self-analysis and reconstruction. One of the greatest blessings Allah has given us, And I would say it's the greatest weapon of the Muslims. It's not a bomb. It's not anthrax. It's not biological weapons. One of our greatest weapons, I believe, is tawbah. It is repentance. That we are able to make self-analysis and reconstruction. To analyze ourselves, turn in repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to regret the sins that we have done, to make intention not to return to them, to repay back the wrong that is done, to make a complete tawbah, and to reconstruct ourselves. So an individual could have been a drug addict, a bank robber, totally confused. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides the individual, we make the right intentions, we can reconstruct ourselves. It is totally confusing to the historians of the secular studies. How is the Muslim world coming back again? Rome is gone, Greece is gone, ancient Egypt is gone, Mesopotamia is gone. How can the Muslims rise, fall, and then rise again? It is a total confusion to them. It doesn't make sense. It logically does not make sense. We're supposed to be finished, man. You're supposed to go to the relics, the old ruined mosques of Islam, and only see where Muslims used to pray. But we're coming back. Alhamdulillah. Because Allah has blessed us with tawbah, with a chance to make reconstruction. And so we need to look at our essence, taqwa. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever has taqwa, the consciousness of Allah, Allah will make a way out for him. Taqwa. We need to go back to our very essence of our beings. Also the proper knowledge of Islam. Questions are coming up constantly, and one of the great issues that we face, especially people coming out of the Muslim world, is the difference between culture and Islam. Because many times our culture is not Islam. We have some ways about us that are Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, even Jewish. We have strange cultures that we are coming out. Some of it is Islamic, and some of it is not Islamic. And so we need to be able to access the original sources, to go back to the Prophet ﷺ, the first generations, to go back to drink from the fresh water of early Islam, and then don't get lost and stay there. Take those principles and bring them alive in the world today, respecting all of the great imams and scholars who have been part of our great Islamic history. And so, the proper knowledge of Islam. Next, character development. We've spent a long time in our community, generations, focusing on ibadat. We teach the children how to pray, how to fast, how to make hajj. We focus on ibadah, and that is crucial. But mu'amalat, interpersonal relationships between people. There are some parts of the world where I heard a Muslim say to me, I said, brother, I'd like to build a house. And he said, don't go to the Muslim constructors, man. Don't ask a Muslim to build your house. Because he'll rip you off, he will steal all your wealth. I said, wait a minute. I said, brother, I would like to have a carpenter. I would like everything I asked for. He said, don't go to the Muslims. Why is this, man? Because we're not focusing on character. That same Muslim may be perfect or excellent in his salat. He might have just come back from Hajj, Al-Hajj Fulan, and then open up his shop and raise the prices. He may have just fasted in Ramadan, and then after the fast in Ramadan, start swearing and carrying on and not going back to the masjid. So character. The Prophet ﷺ has told us in authentic hadith, بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ حُسْنَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. This is reported in Al-Muwatta, that the Prophet ﷺ said, I have been sent to complete the best in character. Character. When the Prophet ﷺ was asked, what are the two affairs that will take people, that will mostly let people go to paradise? He said, Taqwa Allah wa husnul khuluq. The consciousness of Allah and good character. And what are the two affairs that mostly take people to hellfire? Al-fam wal-faraj. The mouth and the private parts. Sadaqa Rasulullah. We see it in front of our mouths, man. Our mouths. Lying, backbiting, scandalizing, confusion, This is where the Islamic revival begins, from the inside of the individual. And we need to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for balance, hikmah, wisdom, wad'u shay fi mahali, putting things in the proper place. Sometimes it's not the amount of knowledge that you have, but it is how you apply that knowledge. It's not memorizing hundreds of ayat and ahadith, alhamdulillah. But when the doctor interviews the patient, if the doctor looks at you and just says, okay, take these pills and go, he doesn't care about you. He doesn't have the wisdom. He can give you not enough medicine, it won't cure you, or give you too much medicine, it can kill you. But the wisdom is to take your temperature, take your body weight, understand your medical history, see the symptoms, and then he prescribes the medicine. So the wisdom, the hikmah, not going to one extreme or another extreme. Ummatun wasata, to be the balanced ummah. We are so in need of this today. Also, in the times that we are living, it is the time of unity and cooperation. This, I believe, amongst Ahlul Sunnah wa Jama'ah, is the call of the times. We need to begin to unify with other Muslims, the people of the Qibla, and to give honest, sincere nasiha, to begin to pray for each other, to begin to support each other, and not isolate ourselves and leave each other alone. Also, a positive attitude. This Islamic revival needs to have positivity, not negativity. It's a win-win situation for us. And when the Prophet ﷺ used to send out his companions on a mission, he used to tell them, Bashiru wa la tunafiru, yasiru wa la tu'asiru. He would say, give glad tidings to people. Don't drive them away. Make it easy. Don't make it difficult. Don't make things difficult. And so that is the time that we are living in today. Finally, dawah. In this revival, the reaction to this beast which is coming over our ummah now, this false accusations, we need to come out of ourselves and to show the world what Islam really is about. We have the answer for the environmental situation. We have the answer for the economy, an interest-free system. We have a non-racist system. We support the building of the families. We have a system where we have our leadership is underneath divine guidance. It is not man-made system. And so we have beautiful gems to give to the society, but there are no more prophets to come. And if you're waiting for the Mahdi to come, Allah knows when he's going to come. And 1,000 years ago, people thought the Mahdi was right outside. So it's on our shoulders to carry this faith, as the Prophet ﷺ said, بَلِّغُ عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةٍ, spread this message, even if it is one ayah. So I say in conclusion, to the Dajjalun and the Kadhabun, who have come to us with a type of speech that neither we nor our parents have ever heard of. I say in the spirit of the Prophet ﷺ, when he received the message from Musaylimah, Musaylimah wrote to the Prophet ﷺ and said, from Musaylimah the messenger of Allah to Muhammad the messenger of Allah. You take part of Arabia, I take the other part. I'm translating part. The Prophet ﷺ wrote back to him and said, from Muhammad the messenger of Allah ﷺ to Musaylimah al-Kadhab, Inna al-arda lillahi yurithuha man yasha'u min ibadi wal aqibatu lil muttaqin. This earth belongs to Allah, and He will give it to whom He pleases from His slaves. And the best reward, the true victory, is for those who have taqwa, those who fear Allah, those who hope in Allah, those who surrender their lives completely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah give us this understanding. May Allah bring Islam alive in our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon the weak of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah have mercy upon the women and the children of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah give strength to the men, the leadership. May Allah give leadership to the men of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And may Allah help us to be of those who would sacrifice our lives for His cause. May Allah give strength to the weak. May Allah give hope to the oppressed. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
We have about 10 minutes or 12 minutes or so. If there are any brothers who want to raise a discussion point or just simply to make a comment, could they please raise their hands, and I'll try and select the hands, inshallah, properly. And if any sisters have the time in the next 10 minutes to send in a question, then they may do so. But we have to break at about 8 o'clock so that we can prepare for prayers at 8:15. Maghrib and Isha will be at 8:15 at Stamford Hall, the same place where we had lunch today, inshallah. And then dinner will be served at 9 o'clock, inshallah. So if you have any questions or want to make a comment, would you please raise your hands? Yeah.
So brother's question now. Well, really, the question is that we need to come out of ourselves, but many years of good can be destroyed by false propaganda. We can only go forward. It's the way of the Prophet ﷺ we find in his darkest hours, like in the time of the Khandaq and things. They still came out of themselves. And so, it is the way of Islam. It's a win-win situation. We have to go forward, man. And you'd be surprised how far a kalima can go from a Muslim. Allah blesses that word, it can go a long distance. But the spirit that we're using now in coming out of ourselves is discover Islam. Non-confrontational. Because people all around the society, even after September 11th, although this negative propaganda is there, the average person wants to know, what is Islam, man? Like, what are you people really about? And if they don't hear it from us, they're going to hear it from CNN or Time Magazine, or some other secular medium. So we have to, in an organized fashion, hit the airwaves. We have to go forward whenever we can. This is not easy. It needs training. We need to train ourselves, to prepare ourselves, and humble ourselves to Allah and go forward then. We have to come out of ourselves. Because if we don't, then they're going to tell the world who we are. And we can see what they're trying to construct now. What they're trying to prepare. So we need to come out of we need to come out of ourselves. Now, floor is open. There's a brother in the back who's got a question. Okay, and it says, in a society that promotes evil, sex, drugs, crime, etc., can Islamic revival take place in such a society without isolation from the evils of society? Or can the reconstruction take place in a land of Muslims only? And if so, what can one do against a leader that is worse than the Majus? For this leader, do not allow this revival. Is the struggle a physical one that needs taqwa, or does the answer lie in the dawah? Okay, there is a certain amount of isolation that is needed. And that is that we need to develop, even within a non-Muslim society, we need to develop areas, pockets of Islam. One of the examples that we studied about the spread of Islam into West Africa, in the ancient kingdom of Ghana, is that when the Muslims penetrated the Sahara, the desert, they lived in the ancient king of Ghana, and they were scribes, they benefited the society, they were trusted people, but there was a section of the town, if you go in that section, then you find the Muslims there. And so the Muslims have their masjids, they have their madrasas, they have their halal food, but they had a relation, they benefited the society, and the society benefited them. And so if we are living within these lands, and this is the reality, we still need to have a protected area in the sense that masjid, community, it is important to develop an area like that, where the drug dealers will not go into these areas, right, and where our children can feel safe to walk to school. That is important for us to develop it, and then to really go forward with the dawah, to bring the message of Islam openly and straightforward out to the people. Okay? Questions? Floor is open. Now, brother in the back.
Assalamu alaikum ya Jamaatul Muslimin wal Muslimat. On this day 1, we are very delighted to go with one idea. At least we have made a great achievement with this Islamic revival. This is a very, very important topic that you've given to us, and may God bless you. And why I'm saying this is that some incidents are happening now that had happened long ago with men like Colonel Gaddafi, who stood, in this same picture, and people blamed him for all these acts of violence and all that, and he was much more of a soldier. Such that, is it possible for us to direct some of these commandos on the front line, that some of the actions are actually giving us some more problems rather than advancing us? Because a lot of things can be done these days, especially in this computer age, whereby you can go to the internet, you challenge certain issues. At one time, somebody was challenging about halal meat. And I was wondering why, with all these multitudes of Muslims, no one could come to the internet and vote against such kind of ideas. But however, the few Muslims had to challenge the issue. And even the Jews, they sided us. That was the very first time we had a similar idea. You see, such that sometimes we need to be discussing our future plans, as the Prophet ﷺ used to do. Because at one time I can remember when Dr. Buhadi in our own mosque at Brixton Road was discussing Al-Talaq, Suratul Talaq to us about marriage and divorce. It seems as if this question of freedom of expression started in those early days of the Prophet ﷺ. Because all these big professors, these big scholars, they gave their own views about marriage and divorce, and they are all recorded. Such that we are very happy to know that most of the innovations these days come from our own self, even though we are not being praised for that. But we quite obviously know that Islam is there to stay. But however, it is left with you, our leaders, to certainly warn some of these people who do act without our own approval and consultations, which might lead us into more problems. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Yeah. Okay. Allah knows best. I believe that we need to begin the revival with the individual, because really, for a long time, people have looked at Islam like other secular systems, looked from up down. From the elite and then hierarchy and then down. But really Islam is a popular movement. It begins with the individuals. And so, it's quality, not quantity. It's not about quantity. So it's important for us to begin with ourselves, with our families, with our communities, and to try to get that balanced look at Islam, go back to the early sources, and then, with that wisdom, then go forward, try to speak to the world, be clear with the world. Many of the leaders in the Muslim world, many of them are hopeless, man. There's some of them you can talk to, but many of them are hopeless, man. Because they're more afraid, they care about their own power and themselves more than their own people. And so, we can't worry about them at this point in time. We have to deal with ourselves. And we have to deal at the level that we're at. There may be some amongst us who can give nasiha on that level. If there are those who can give nasiha, they need to go on that level and even give the leaders of Islam nasiha right to their face. But at least for the level that we're working on now, we need to try to, get into ourselves, our families, sincerely try to purify ourselves and prepare us, for the major changes, inshallah, I believe will be coming about very soon in the world. Okay? Now, question in the back.
We'll make that the last question, I think, because we want to finish at 8 o'clock. So, if the brother, you have the last question.
No.
Yes, brother, you raised your hand.
Jazakallah khair for your talk. Just very quickly, please, Sheikh. You mentioned the Islamic solution to the economic crisis. When you try and speak to Muslims and non-Muslims and say, look, interest is haram, mortgage is haram, they say, okay, well, what's your solution? Everything nowadays is based on interest. Could you very quickly say how we can answer them and an overview of that?
Well, there are Muslims now who are working on Islamic economics. And it's not easy because, the interest has touched all parts of society. As the Prophet ﷺ said, the time would come when the fire of interest, it would touch everybody, even the dust of it. It would be burning the Muslims. And so it's all over the place. But, to take the money out of interest-bearing banks, not to be involved in direct interest transactions, and then to set up our own credit unions, our own type of housing cooperatives, where we can, purchase property and then let other Muslims buy the property without, taking a bond, pooling our resources together, right? And then eventually, buying land, getting gold, silver, more actual, objects, items that have intrinsic value, instead of putting everything in these false promissory notes. We have to come out of this system. So alhamdulillah, we do have some experts in the economy who are working on it now. Many parts of the Muslim world are introducing Islamic banks. They are moving now towards the interest-free economy. Muslims are trying to get their money out of the interest, but at least what we can do is to try to stop involving ourselves in direct interest contracts. Right? Direct, contracts where you sign. Try to stay out of that as much as you possibly can. Make tawbah, clean up as much as possible, and invest in gold and silver and things that have value in itself, and not just in notes. If you live in some of these countries, you may be a millionaire one day, and you may be a pauper the next day. Okay, because if your currency goes down, the currencies rise and fall like this, man. And then the whole trick of the US dollar, it's supposed to be the most powerful currency in the world, but America has the greatest debt of any country in the world. They're debtors, man. So how is the US dollar the strongest currency? This is a new type of science. Or maybe it's an old science. You have biology, and this one is tricknology. It's tricknology, man. That's a science. Okay? And it's illusion, setting these illusions right in front of our eyes. And this economic system is an illusion, right, that has been set in front of our eyes, and we need to try as much as possible to go back to Islamic dealings with each other, where value for value, right, and where we are actually looking at the land, and coming out of the false monetary systems. Wallahu a'lam.
Thank you very much for that. Jazakumullah khairan. We have to finish, inshallah. We have about 15 minutes before prayer time. I suggest, inshallah, we go and do wudu and get ready for prayers. Dinner will be about 9 o'clock. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, Fajr is at 5 a.m. Again at Stamford Hall, inshallah. And then breakfast later on. Barakallahu feekum.